Hey Bio245, this is Vanessa, and we're going to be talking about the rest of the repro system. In this case, we're going to be talking about the male. So, we left off at fimbriae for female on the list, so next is going to be scrotum, everybody's favorite word, right? So, first off, let's introduce you to our male model. So here he is in all his glory. So basically, when we're talking about the scrotum, that's going to be an external structure. It's kind of like a purse to hold all the important things outside of the body. Okay, so here you can see on this particular model, when we're talking about the important stuff, we're talking about this guy here, which we'll talk about in a moment, the testes or the testicle, right? But behind it, you can see that this is the more external structure, this skin that surrounds everything. That's going to be the scrotum. So if I put a sticker on this, that's scrotum. Okay, moving on. All right, so moving on up, we have the epididymis. Now, epididymis is a little bit of a tricky guy here, so I might show you a couple other things first. I'll show you that first. Okay, so first off, there we go. We're gonna take this guy and we're gonna dismantle him for a second. Okay, so first off, we have the epididymis, and here again we have the scrotum on the outside. That's the skin. We have the testes, or the testicle here, and then on top of it, there's kind of this pouch that you might notice. And this pouch on top, that there is going to be the epididymis. So the epididymis is this place where sperm of course originate here in the testes, but ultimately they travel up the epididymis and they kind of mature there. They like grow their tails and they become ready for the world there. Okay, just to show you on another model, we're going to dismantle this male too, so you can see a little bit better. But again, there's the testes. Sitting on top is this little pouch, almost like the white fuzzy part of the Santa hat. That's going to be the epididymis there. And again, the final kind of maturing place, well, not the final, but a maturing place for the sperm, so it can continue on its merry way. And lastly, there's this really weird model, but this model is super useful, so I'm going to show it to you. But anyway, here's your testes, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. And then here, this like pink or lilac kind of wormy looking structure, that there is going to be the epididymis, so that maturing place for the sperm. And we already talked about the testes, or at least how to identify it, but I want you to look down to the bottom of your list for the male, and you'll see seminiferous tubules. Now for the most part, seminiferous tubule is going to be a small structure that generally you can't see, but on this particular model, you totally can. So here again is the testes. The testes are where sperm are produced. So they start off as happy little gametes and they split and eventually they become a sperm, and then the sperm start this magical journey, because you might remember me talking last time in the female models, but the name of the game of the repro is getting from point A to point B, and the sperm do the legwork. They start all the way down in here and they make a crazy journey that we're going to talk about. But first, for that crazy journey, we have the seminiferous tubules, and you'll notice looking at this model that there's all these like kind of divots in the testes. So all those divots kind of represent like a turn in to one of the seminiferous tubules, because they are literally a bunch of coiled tubes just in and over on themselves. So that's the first start of their crazy journey, is going through these seminiferous tubules and making their way to the epididymis. Okay, so going back up the list, we have the ductus deferens, and you might have also heard this referred to as the vas deferens. If you hear the term vasectomy, that's what we're talking about cutting, is that ductus or vas deferens. And it's basically this tube that leads up from the epididymis, remember that maturing place for the sperm, and ultimately passes all the way around and joins up eventually with the urethra. So on this model, it's the easiest to see. So I'm going to show you on this first, and then I'll show you on the other models places where you can identify that same structure. So remember, I said that vas deferens or ductus deferens is going to be coming off of the epididymis. So on this model, you have to turn it around to see the vas or the ductus deferens. So you can see it's still that same color, that lilac color. But the testes would be down here, epididymis right around here. So here is the tube leading directly off of it, the ductus or the vas deferens. And I'm going to use my finger to trace it so I can actually follow. But anyway, it goes on up, and then you'll notice it goes back, okay? And it makes this crazy journey. And oddly enough, it's going over the top of the bladder. So this structure right here with this little tubey coming off the side, this is your bladder, or if you're a male anyway, and then this is the ureter leading down to the bladder. So there you go. There's the vas or the ductus deferens, and it goes over the top of the bladder. This is definitely a weird, crazy path, but the other cool thing about it is that means we can see it on this urinary model, right? So here's the front of the urinary model with the two halves of the pelvic bone, and if you turn it around, you'll start to notice some of these structures as we cover them, but these, you know how this kind of looks like an angry ant or some kind of angry critter? So the angry eyebrows, that's going to be your vas or your ductus deferens. That's heading its way down, okay? On this particular model, you can see it pretty well. It's just easier to see on the other one that I showed you. But again, here's the testes where our sperm start their journey. Then here's the epididymis where they mature. And then they're going to make a happy journey up the vas or the ductus deferens. And here it continues, and you can see it actually continues over the top of the bladder. If you turn this around, there again is the typical ridges on the inside of the bladder. So yeah, this tube continues its happy way to the back side of the bladder. And lastly, I think you can see it on this model. Not very well. So I'm not going to show it to you on this particular model just because you can't really see it. But again, there's your testes, there's the epididymis. So you can imagine that that vas or ductus deferens would come up here. Here's the outside of the bladder, so it would go around the backside in some fashion. Okay. Next, we have the ejaculatory duct. So the ejaculatory duct is a continuation of the ductus or the vas deferens, but it cuts through tissue. So instead of being a duct, like a tube that goes through, or instead of being the vas deferens or the ductus deferens, that's like a tube that continues on its way, the ejaculatory duct is basically like a little channel that burrows through tissue. So just to show you, here's that vas or ductus deferens. Turn that baby around because look, it's coming right about to here, to this kind of bulbous shape, right? Starts over here, ends up over here somewhere, and it's going to go over to this structure, which we're going to talk about. But the ejaculatory duct, so here it is turned around, is this right here. So basically that vas or ductus deferens comes down behind the bladder, just like so, and it pokes through the tissue, burrows through, and becomes the ejaculatory duct right there. Okay? And it's actually going to join up with this guy, which you might remember. This guy here is going to be the urethra that we learned about before. So here's the bladder, here is the urethra, and it's going to come down and out. So that ejaculatory duct here joins up with the urethra. But once it joins up with the urethra, it's the urethra the rest of the way. Okay, the ejaculatory duct is just ejaculatory duct for a little tiny bit, and it's burrowing through that tissue. What tissue is it burrowing through in particular? It is burrowing through this walnut, well, it's about the size of a walnut, it's kind of almost a heart shape, but this here is the prostate, this yellow guy, okay? So on this particular model, that's the one where we couldn't really see the ductus slash vas deferens, but you can see a little bit of that ejaculatory duct there. So this structure right here, that is going to be the prostate gland. And from the outside, actually, it's this really dark colored structure. On this particular model, here is the ejaculatory duct, just a tiny portion of it. And again, it's passing through that prostate gland. And if you look from the outside, again, it's this dark kind of liver color, okay? It is glandular, but it doesn't look like a typical gland, kind of like the ovary looks like lumpy, like chewed up gum like you are used to seeing with glands, but the prostate gland is still a gland, but it doesn't look quite like that. Next we have the seminal vesicles. So the seminal vesicles are going to be on the back side again of our bladder, okay? So here is our male again. So I already pointed out that this here is the bladder, here's that ductus slash vas deferens, and again it goes to the back side of the bladder. So this lumpy lilac purpley material here on this particular model, that's going to be your seminal vesicle, and if you turn it around, you can see it again here. So basically that vas slash ductus deferens kind of meets up with this structure, this seminal vesicle. You can see it really nicely on here as well. You can't see it from that half view, you have to look at the outside. So again, here's your vas slash ductus deferens, and you can see it kind of meets right up with that seminal vesicle and almost is like part of the passage. Lastly, same thing here, you can't see from the half view, you have to turn it around, but on the outside of the bladder, there's that seminal vesicle right there. Now the seminal vesicle and the prostate gland together, they're making extra stuff to combine with the sperm to make semen. Because sperm by itself is not going to really do much for you. It's a bunch of cells and they're going to be clumped up together and it's going to be a sad day. But you have your prostate gland, your seminal vesicle, and another gland that we're going to talk about, and they combine forces with extra juices and that are more alkaline and have extra substances to actually support these cells, and eventually that fluid plus the cells makes semen in its whole form, I suppose. But anyway, let's go back to this model for a second. You can see again, here's the front with the pelvic bones, here's the back. So I already pointed out our vas deferens, or our ductus deferens. Those are the eyebrows of our angry ant. So moving down, the bloodshot eyes that you see here, that's the seminal vesicles. The beak here, that's the prostate gland. Okay. So in other words, this is a male urinary model, and you might remember me saying that when we covered urinary. Moving on, we just have a couple more structures, and they'll go a lot faster. So here, let's go to this model again. So you can see here is our ejaculatory duct, here's our urethra going on the way down. The reason why I'm pointing those out is because our next thing is the bulbourethral gland. So see this like ball on a stick right here? That is going to be your bulbourethral gland. And the bulbourethral gland's job is basically to pre-coat the urethra so that way the spermie can go on their happy journey outside into the world, wherever that might be, and not die in the acidic, salinic deposit along the urethra, because urine is normally pretty acidic, as we learned from our urinalysis, right? So usually around 6.5, maybe even 5.5. But sperm don't like acid, so the bulbourethral gland coats the urethra with a nice alkaline substance. And here, oh shoots, this is, yeah, no, it's on here. So here we're gonna re-put our male together. Oops, wrong male part. There we go. That would have been awkward. All right, so here you can see the same thing. Here is our urethra coming down, and you can see that there's this teardrop structure right here. That's gonna be your bulbourethral gland. And this half of the model doesn't have it, but just remember, it's kind of at the beginning of the urethra, almost underneath the prostate gland, okay? Okay, moving on. We got a couple of more straightforward terms, maybe, at least one straightforward term. So first off, penis. Everybody knows that part, but if I want you to identify penis and like what structure I'm going to put a sticker on, I'm going to put a sticker like right here, okay? Everybody knows that. Next is this prepuce or prepuce, however you want to say, but basically that's like the foreskin part of it. So if I want you to identify prepuce or prepuce, I put a sticker right here on this little ridge. On this other model, let me put him back together. This would be penis, this would be prepuce or prepuce. And this doesn't have a prepuce, so don't worry about that. Next on here are the corpus cavernosum and the corpus spongiosum. So you might recall that when we talked about the clitoris that I said it has this porous material that could fill with blood so that tissue can become rigid. As we all know, males pretty much have the same thing going on, right? So if you cut the penis in half, you can see that material inside, and it looks just exactly like I showed you with the clitoris with that light blue material that has holes in it. You can see the same exact thing going on here, but you can see that there's a light blue and that there's a dark blue, right? So light blue and dark blue. So the light blue is going to be that corpus cavernosum, oops, the corpus cavernosum, and then the dark blue here is going to be the corpus spongiosum. Spongiosum actually surrounds the urethra, and it's going to be that dark blue color. Moving on, we have on this guy, we have the glands, and the glands is going to be this part right here. Lastly, we have the cremaster muscle and the pampiniform plexus. So the pampiniform plexus is going to be the vasculature that goes down the spermatic cord, ultimately culminating here at the testes and the epididymis. So you can see all this vasculature here. That's going to be the pampiniform plexus, and that's what's going to help regulate the temperature of your gametes down low. Okay. For the cremaster muscle is the muscle that helps adjust where the testes are located, because too warm, no good, that hurts the sperm. Too cold, also no good, that hurts the sperm too. So we need that muscle here, this red, to help adjust where the testes are in relation to the body. So closer to the body to make it warmer, further away from the body to get cooler. So that's going to be the red there, that's the muscle, the cremaster muscle. Alright, so after a special visit from my advisor and a couple of noises here, that is our last video, and that is the male reproductive system. So this has been a lot of fun making videos with you guys. I hope you guys have liked them, and I hope you learned some stuff, and I hope that when you get to the practical that you see these models and you're not scared because you've seen them all before. Anyway, it's been a lot of fun, so have a great semester and good luck on the practical. See you later!